Hi, I'm Philippa. I am a wheelchair user and I have an assistance dog, and I also have my own pet dogs. I have found it quite challenging to move from being a fully mobile person to being a wheelchair user and still wanting to train dogs. I've had to find methods to make the dog enthusiastic to want to do it for you, as opposed to say, no, just sit there and then I'll show you. I've had to encourage them to do it for themselves, because there's no way I can physically demand that they do something for me. And the interesting thing about it for me has been that the dogs want to do it. It's not just the trained dogs that want to do it, but my pet dogs are like, oh really, get the post. I could join in that job and then I could get a treat too. And there is sometimes a bit of competition over who's going to bring the biggest box of biscuits or the big jar of peanut butter from the shopping crate, and get the treats. Heel work has, I think, been my most challenging job because my hands are occupied with the things that I can do, and they're too painful to deal with a pulling dog. I don't have enough hands for clicking and treating and driving and working that out. This is still very much a work in progress. If I happen to be working with a dog that knows roughly what it's doing, that's fine. We just take it slowly. It gets used to the wheelchair, and it all works. But if I've got a dog that hasn't a clue, then I haven't yet worked out a way of teaching really good heel work, and I've had to resort to nice soft harnesses so that when the dog pulls, at least it's not hurting the dog. One of my concerns when I started losing my mobility was whether my life of training and working with dogs was over. That to me was the most devastating part of having the disease. And I set out to find ways in which I could make it work for me, and anybody can find those ways. Being in a chair does not stop you. You can make sensible decisions over what type of dog you get or what strength of dog you get, depending on your pain levels and your fatigue levels. But it doesn't stop you having a dog per se, not in the slightest. I was worried that the chair that I'm in would frighten puppies. And in fact, they like the chair. They use it as a den. So if we're out in the park and another dog comes bounding over, the puppy shoots under the wheelchair and goes, I'll just say hi from here. They're not at all bothered. And I have several friends who are disabled with dogs that I've helped them see how they can work with the dog. And that's including using mobility scooters rather than a wheelchair, or using a manual chair. Honestly, none of the options are something that you can't get over. You can still have a full life with dogs, and as many dogs as you want, really. I think the most difficult thing for me is rotten weather. Because if you've got more than one dog and you're coming in wet and dirty and your wheelchair's wet and dirty and the dog's wet and dirty, you're bringing the whole park in with you. If you've just got one dog, the dog can stand there while you're doing things. If you've got more than one dog, you've got to work on teaching them to lie in a specific place and wait for their turn. And that is a lot of hard work, and it means an hour's walk could turn into a 3-hour time slot, which takes a big chunk out of your life. I have been lucky enough to find people who love my dogs and who go, oh, it's rotten weather, shall we see if Philippa's dogs would like a walk? So I'd get away with it quite often, but that's the most difficult thing for me. When I was working out how to manage to have dogs and be disabled, and my fears over how much my chair would frighten the puppy, I went out looking for a specialist wheelchair. I decided I had to get one that gave me maximum abilities, and I found this chair, which is called a Dragon. It has the ability to go up so that I'm on the same height as other people, which for me is a sort of self-esteem thing. I don't like people always having to bend over, but the most important thing about it, it will go right down to the ground. So I can sit on the floor with the dogs and not worry about whether I can get up again. I can get down and pick up their poo. My assistant's dog is trained to go to the toilet on command where I tell him to go. And my pet dogs are on the whole picking that up themselves, but any dog, if it's poorly, is going to go. And any dog on a free run has the likelihood to go. And that is not an issue for me because I can always pick it up. My toilet area is a problem because my dogs prefer bark to stone, but then they don't like the bark when it's wet. If it's stone, I can't get on it at all to clear it up. Wheelchairs and stones are not friendly. So then I would have to wait for my personal assistant to come and clear it up, which isn't a problem when they come every day, but then if they go off sick and the toilet gets dirty and then no dogs want to use it, and I don't blame them at all. So the substrate is an issue, and at the moment I'm investigating putting the artificial lawn down, because that way I could drive onto it at any time and clean it up. When thinking about getting a dog, I wanted to be able to do dog activities like agility. So when I told Canine Partners that, their job then was to find me a dog that could cope with settling down with someone who's in a wheelchair, but also would really enjoy the option to go and do agility. So you don't have to worry about whether the dog is active or not, because if you want to do it, you're going to get out there and you're going to do it with your dog. If you're worried about the size of a dog, now my dogs are 3 different sizes. I've got a golden retriever as an assistance dog. His size means that he can help me transfer easily and he can pull bigger weights, like to get me out of the chair. It's much easier for him than my Chihuahua, who would prefer I put her in the chair. But the disadvantage of having a big dog is even when they know that bits of you hurt, and they know which bits of you hurt, when they play or they lack concentration, it does hurt when their body meets with yours. But I actually find the little pitter-patter of Chihuahua paws more annoying when I'm in pain than the big lump that's just pinned me to the bed, going, oh, we're staying in bed today. Okay. So I have 3 sizes. They all work. They all work in different ways. You've got your lap dog, you've got the one you can cuddle and carry around, and you've got the one that's keeping you safe and warm. I don't think size matters. When I first had a dog, I had grown up with Barbara Woodhouse, and we were very much sit, and that was how I believed training should be. I started my life with dogs with Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, who are small enough not to have to worry about too much training if you don't want to. And then I sort of accidentally acquired a German Shepherd. And I was like, okay, I've really seriously got to learn to train now, because this is a dog that is stronger than I am. And so I have to be confident that it will follow my requests. At that time, I would have said that it would follow my commands. Now, I would say it would follow my requests, because the dog will only work for you if it chooses to work for you. You can't make it. You have to build the bond. It has to want to, because it enjoys it and because it loves you. And so the idea of a choke chain to stop it pulling and pushing down on the bottom to make it sit, I look back on it with horror at my pet dogs and think, gosh, I put them through that, and I wouldn't dream of it now. I like to give my dogs as much choice as possible. I don't want them to be ruled by me and my decisions. So I ask them if they'll do something. I'll entice them. I'm trying to learn how to do training the do as I do, where they just learn to copy you, which is, I think, fascinating. I think possibly the next bigger thing since clicker training. Clicker training worked well for me until my hands started to hurt badly. And then I found I wasn't as quick with the click. And my voice isn't neutral enough for me to be happy with using it, which is why I'd really like to move on to the do as I do and then I believe I can show the dog better what I want, and it can choose whether to join me. I think the most important decision any dog owner makes is which dog to get. You need to get a dog that suits your lifestyle and your personality. Do you want a clown, or do you want the one that just wants to lie in front of the fire? They're all so different, even within the same breeds. So if you were starting from scratch with no knowledge of dogs except you've seen other people's and you like them, I would recommend going somewhere like Discover Dogs and talking to all the breeders, getting a feel for the animal. Do you like the animal that doesn't have much fur, or the long coats or the short coats? And do you want an animal that looks to you, or do you want an animal that just wants to have a walk and nosy around and do its own thing? And once you've discovered that and you've worked out which breed it is that you're going to be happy with and which subgroup within that breed, then I would recommend going to a training club or a social club with dogs and actually start talking to other dog owners. What do they find their dog does that maybe you wouldn't like? Would you manage if your dog rolled in fox poo every day, or would that drive you bananas? You know, especially as a disabled person, these are very important questions, because you're going to be really right up and close and personal with your dog, and if you can't stand the fox poo, that's not going to be right for you. So do your research, think about it, and then make decisions based on what you know, and don't give up, even if that dog is difficult, because there are people out there that can help and will help and want to help. It isn't necessarily because you're disabled. Don't take it on board. You know, this could just be the dog you've got. And there are trainers, there are behaviourists, there are workshops you can go to, there are videos you can watch. There is just so much information out there that you can get access to now, that if you're a confirmed, I'm getting a dog, no matter what, you can work through it and you can work it out. One of the benefits of having Jack when I'm out in a social situation is he attracts people. He's a large, furry, gentle beast, and people are fascinated by the work he can do for me. And instead of people being unsure what to say to me, or if they should speak to me, and if they're being politically correct enough, they can just lavish their affection on Jack, not worry about it. And then we got the chance to build a relationship. I found when I lost my mobility, I lost most of my mobile friends. And Jack has enabled me to make new ones and make friendships that are really, really positive, because if you're a doggy person, you're okay. So if you're disabled and you're thinking about it, stop thinking, just work it out. Get your dog, it's fantastic. It'll be the best thing you ever do.